Breaking news, Maryland voters are deciding who will be on the ballot this November. It is primary night. The results are still coming in, and they're changing by the minute. Good evening. I'm Leslie Foster. A lot of seats are up for grabs. Voters are choosing who they want to represent their parties in a bunch of races, including the big one, governor. There are 13 candidates. The primaries are a big deal, so we're going big in our coverage tonight. Our team is all across Maryland covering the races that matter to you. And it's important to note that we are early in the results process. It could be days before some races are called. That's because mail-in ballots won't be counted until Thursday. You can find a list of the current results crawling at the bottom of your screen throughout this newscast. But let's get to the results we know, starting with the Republican nomination for Maryland governor. So Dan Cox is leading right now, followed by Kelly Schultz. And we begin our coverage with Matthew Torres. He's with the Dan Cox team in Emmitsburg. And Matthew, Dan is the candidate with the Trump effect.
And Leslie, Dan Cox just took the stage here now, declaring a victory based on NBC projections that he has taken on this Republican race. So he is here up on the stage right now. We want to note we have yet to get the final results from this election, including the AP projections, but he is saying he is the winner. And as you can see, we have dozens of his supporters here at his watch party celebrating along with him. Just moments ago, he thanked his wife, his supporters, the volunteers for his campaign, and he also thanked former President Donald Trump, who we know as he entered Election Day that he got the endorsement from the former president. Again, he was very confident early on, even as about an hour after polls closed, that he was going to pull through with all this. He is running on the first America First message, just like Trump. His supporters telling me that he likes how he is pushing for constitutional rights. He's been vocal against Governor Larry Hogan and how he handled the pandemic. But in a state like Maryland, this was really a toss-up. The Democratic Governors Association poured millions of dollars into the race that focuses more on Cox as an opponent. His opponent, Kelly Schultz, says it's a tactic to make him look like a lesser threat to lock in a Democratic win for governor. Tonight, Cox responded to those claims.
I think it was exactly the opposite because, my opponent's campaign message was almost identical to the messaging of the Democratic Governors Association Action Committee. I denounce any meddling.
And again, based on those NBC projections, Dan Cox is here on stage declaring victory. He is now just talking about his platform, which includes standing up against critical race theory, so-called gender indoctrination, as well as backing police officers and against anything that has to do with immigration, undocumented immigrants coming here to the state. You can hear now the roar of crowds because we are just getting in the news from AP that he is in fact the winner of the Republican race for governor, beating out his opponent, Kelly Schultz. Now this is a huge win for them, especially in the political climate that we are seeing shift here in Maryland. We are hoping to speak with Dan Cox after his speech. We will have another update soon. We'll send it back over to you, Leslie.
All right, that's the thing about election night. Things can change moment to moment, and just this moment, we're hearing about that AP endorsement. We're going to go over to Kelly Schultz. She was the Republican candidate endorsed by Governor Larry Hogan. Adam Longo has been there all evening long, and for the longest time, they were holding on to hope that it would be them with the winning night.
Right, and they've come away from this evening, Leslie, not thinking that this is over, thinking that there are still a number of votes to be counted. Now, listen, I want to run you through some numbers real quick because I think this is going to put where we stand right now, a snapshot at 11 p.m., perfectly succinct. Okay, so Kelly Schultz is behind right now in both early voting numbers and the in-person voting numbers today by about 32,000 votes. There are about 25% of precincts still yet to be counted that are outstanding tonight. This is numbers that we've got straight from the Maryland Board of Elections. So now that would put a total number of votes tonight at about 190,000 between those two candidates. There are more than 212,000 ballots outstanding that were done by mail-in and absentee ballots. And those are not going to be counted until beginning on Thursday. So when I asked the staff, hey, how do you leave this night? I mean, she didn't concede, she didn't declare victory, she just said that there's still a lot of counting to be done. They said that they are going to be moving forward after tonight optimistically, and they believe, a spokesperson for the campaign campaign tells me that those mail-in and absentee ballots will break for them by a rate of 2 for 1. So they still think that they are in this race. Now, Kelly Schultz addressing her supporters here about 10:30 tonight, so about a half an hour ago, and during her speech making a not so subtle dig at her Republican opponent, Dan Cox. Listen to this.
Most importantly, we never, ever lied to our supporters. We never told them things that were not true. We respected them.
So there was a lot of money that was poured into this race, upwards of $2 million by the Democratic Governors Association. They put out ads tying Dan Cox to Donald Trump. Kelly Schultz and Hogan, those campaigns coming forward and saying that they didn't think that it was fair for them to do that, to try to insert their politics into the GOP primary. The Democratic governors saying that they just wanted a leg up on the competition getting into the general election. But Dan Cox is the candidate that the Democrats prefer going into this because they think he makes a more appetizing target, so to speak, than Kelly Schultz would in trying to flip the governor's seat here in Maryland from Republican hands to Democratic. Leslie?
Yeah, because no Republican can win the state of Maryland without some Democrats and some independents supporting for sure. All right, Ads, thanks for that. We're going to get over to the Democratic primary for Maryland Governor. Wes Moore is leading right now, followed by Tom Perez and Peter Franchot. So let's check in with our Larry Miller. He is with Peter Franchot's camp in Bowie.
Oh, well, Leslie, Peter Franchot and Monique Anderson Walker just finished talking to the crowd just a moment ago, telling them to be patient, that they feel that they are confident, cautiously optimistic, I should say, that once every vote is counted, that they will come out on top. But currently, as you just mentioned, Wes Moore, the former CEO of Robinhood, is in the lead. I want to give you a live look right now and show you how things are shaping up with the Wes Moore campaign, where Wes Moore is currently talking to the crowd, kind of giving that same message of being patient, that they still have to wait for those outstanding mail-in ballots that have yet to be counted. Again, those won't be counted until Thursday, and those are critical because many of those mail-in ballots that need to be counted come from those Democratic strongholds, Montgomery County, Baltimore County, Prince George's County, counties that are going to be critical for any Democrat to win the nomination for governor. Right behind Wes Moore is Tom Perez, who is still holding on, and then followed by that is Peter Franchot. I spoke with Peter Franchot and Monique Anderson Walker just a short time ago. Take a listen.
Very, very optimistic. We've looked at just a little sliver of the votes, and I'm convinced that when every vote is counted, we're quietly confident and optimistic that I will be the Democratic nominee for governor.
We're getting a lot of, great feedback from people, a lot of support, and it's exciting. It's hard to put into words the way that I'm feeling at this moment, but it's exciting to have the support, to have been out there, to touch people, to connect with people, and to get literally to every part of this state.
Well, all of the Democratic candidates have been crisscrossing the state trying to get out those voters. I do want to tell you that polling has suggested leading up to Election Day that more than 30% of the electorate remain undecided about who to choose for the nominee. Of course, we will get their final determination within the coming days. Leslie?
13 candidates just on the Democratic side. There's a lot to pick from, and we will see how this whittles down, hopefully in the next couple of days. Larry, thank you.